Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And today lecture I am going to discuss the clinical finding related to E. coli. In the previous lecture I have discussed that what is E. coli, what is the pathogenesis of E. coli, and what are the different strain of E. coli. And this lecture I am going to discuss the clinical finding of E. coli. The first clinical finding of E. coli, Escherichia coli, is diarrhea. What is diarrhea? Loose motion. When there is water and the stool, the condition is called diarrhea. There are two types of diarrhea caused by E. coli by different strain. The first strain is of E. coli is called enterotoxigenic E. coli. Actually, the diarrhea caused by enterotoxigenic E. coli is watery diarrhea, non-bloody diarrhea, self-limited, and of short duration for 1 to 3 days. This diarrhea is watery, it is self-limited, and they have short duration. It is actually this diarrhea is associated with traveling. What does it mean? It means that when you change its place, when you travel from one area to another area, and this watery diarrhea especially caused by E. coli, and which strain of E. coli? Enterotoxigenic strain of E. coli cause this non-bloody diarrhea, simply watery diarrhea. Now enterohemorrhagic E. coli, which is represented, which is abbreviated is EHEC. This enterohemorrhagic E. coli cause diarrhea, but this diarrhea is bloody diarrhea. It means that it is bloody diarrhea is also called dysentery. Dysentery mean that when there is blood in the diarrhea. Why it cause bloody diarrhea? Because this enterohemorrhagic E. coli produce a toxin called Shiga toxin. Why it is called Shiga toxin? Because the toxin is very close in property to the Shigella toxin. This diagram, the patient have severe cramping in the abdomen, fever, and bloody diarrhea. The another important clinical finding of E. coli that is caused by O157 H7 strain of E. coli. You should note that O157 H7 strain of E. coli cause a very important syndrome. This syndrome is called hemolytic uremic syndrome. HUS, hemolytic uremic syndrome. What is this syndrome? Actually, this is a syndrome that is characterized by kidney failure, hemolytic anemia, and thrombocytopenia. Actually, the hemolytic anemia, why it is called hemolytic anemia, and what is the mechanism of hemolytic anemia? You know that hemolytic anemia is caused due to the exotoxin induced capillary damage. What happened? That exotoxin come, and this exotoxin they usually damage the capillary, and which result in the damage to the red cell as they pass through the capillaries. When the capillaries are damaged, the result is that red blood cell are damaged, and these red blood cell then pass through these capillaries. This distorted pregnant red cell are called schistocytes. Look at these are not normal red blood cell, these are fragment of red blood cell, and this fragment are called schistocytes. You know that when the schistocytes, the red blood cell are converted to schistocyte, it is the characteristic of microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. Microangiopathic hemolytic anemia and microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, the red blood cell are damaged. You know that the toxin damage the red blood cells, and these red blood cells are converted into fragment. This type of anemia is called microangiopathic anemia, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, in which small fragment or red blood cell are formed, and these are called cystocytes. Cystocytes. The another important another important character of hemolytic uremic syndrome is thrombocytopenia, mean that the white platelets become less in number, and due to this red blood cell abnormality, there is renal insufficiency, mean that there is kidney failure occur. Now in this diagram, you know that this is well represented. This in 2011, an outbreak of diarrhea and hemolytic uremic syndrome in Germany was caused by Shiga toxin producing strain of E. coli that was type is O104H4, not O157H7. It means that the hemolytic uremic syndrome is not only caused by O157H7, but it is caused by O104H4. You know that hemolytic uremic syndrome normally occur in children who have been treated with fluoroquinolone or other antibiotic for their diarrhea. When you observe diarrhea in children and you frequently treated these children with fluoroquinolone. What is fluoroquinolone? You know that in the market they are named as levofloxacin. The generic name are levofloxacin, ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin. What they do actually, they cause the hemolytic uremic syndrome. You should be aware of this fact. For this reason, antibiotics should not be used to treat diarrhea caused by hemorrhagic E. coli, because they usually associated with the hemolytic uremic syndrome. If we know the in hemolytic uremic syndrome, you know that the thrombocytopenia occur. You know that the thrombocytes decrease, actually the hemoglobin also decrease, and as a result what happened, the kidney and even the central nervous system and the GIT, gastrointestinal tract, are also involved. You will observe diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. The E. coli also cause. Now we are discussing the clinical finding outside the intestinal tract. Outside the intestinal tract means that E. coli is also the leading cause of community acquired urinary tract infection. Urinary tract infection. What are urinary tract infection? When there is abnormality in the urinary tract, this is called urinary tract infection. These infections occur primarily in women. The question arises that why the urinary tract infection are common in the female. If you look at the female reproductive system, three factors are involved that why female are the victim. First of all is that you know that female have short urethra. The other is that the proximity of urethra to anus. This is the anus is very close to urethra, so this mean that the colonization of the organism at the anus is very easy, and what happen, they come and they cause the urinary tract infection. The third reason is that it is also the most frequent cause of colonization of vagina by member of the fecal flora. Fecal flora colonize the anus, and what happen, they come to the vagina and cause the disease. So three factors are involved. The most important factor is the short urethra. Due to the short urethra, they exposed to the external pathogen. Now you know that E. coli also cause the most frequent cause of nosocomial hospital is acquired urinary tract infection, which the hospital acquired infection or nosocomial infection they equally infect both men and women. And why they infect? When there is undwelling of urinary catheters, when there is infection and you place the catheter in the urinary tract, this is the cause of urinary tract infection. Urinary tract infection can be limited to the bladder or extend up to the collecting system of the kidney. The bladder disease is called cystitis. When this bladder is infected, or the male bladder or female bladder is infected, this condition is called cystitis. While the kidney of the patient are infected, it is known as pyelonephritis. When their nephron are involved, then this is called pyelonephritis. Now, the most important symptom of cystitis, urinary bladder, or dysuria, and frequency of urination. Patients are usually afebrile. There is no fever. And pyelonephritis is characterized by fever, flank pain, and costovertebral angle tenderness. Dysuria and dysuria frequency may occur or not occur. Millions of people in the United States, mostly girls and women, suffer from bacterial tract infection each year. These include about 6 lakhs patients who annually acquired healthcare associated UTIs. Urinary tract infection are rare in boys and men. Why? Because men have not short urethra, they have long urethra. Now, another clinical finding related to the E. coli meningitis, sepsis, and neonates. You know that newborns, they are infected by E. coli and streptococcus, streptococci. You know that meningitis caused by E. coli and streptococci in newborns during birth. Why? Because is a result of the colonization of vagina by these organisms, and approximately 25% of pregnant women, they carry these two bacteria, streptococci and E. coli, and they cause the meningitis. You should note that E. coli and streptococci, they cause the meningitis. Why they cause the meningitis in newborns? Because they are present in 25% of the pregnant women vagina. E. coli isolated most frequently from patients with hospital acquired sepsis, which arises primarily from urinary, biliary, or peritoneal infection. Peritonitis is usually a mixed infection caused by E. coli or other facultative, enteric, gram-negative, rot plus anaerobic member of the colonic flora such as bacteroid and Phaseobacterium. This is, you know the anatomy of the brain. These are the meninges. When these meninges are infected, the meninges are consist of dura mater. The outermost is dura mater. This is outermost is dura mater. The middle is arachnoid, and the last one, the innermost, is called pia mater. When these three membrane are called meninges. They cover all the brain and spinal cord, all the brain, and this is spinal cord. When these meninges are infected, these are condition is called meningitis. So you should note that meningitis is caused by E. coli and streptococci, from where these baby acquired the infection. They acquired the infection from their mother during the birth, during the delivery and birth canal. Lab diagnosis. Now come to the lab diagnosis. So, first of all, you know that how you could diagnose the E. coli. Specimen suspected of containing enteric gram-negative rod such as E. coli grown initially on blood agar plate. You can grow it on blood agar plate, but you can also grow it on differential media such as EMB. This is EMB, eosine methylene blue, and you know that eosine methylene blue contain the dye eosine the dye methylene red. They inhibit the gram positive bacteria and only allow the growth of gram negative bacteria. You know that Meccan-K agar is also used. You know what happened on Meccan-K agar? The gram-negative, the E. coli, the E. coli bacteria, they lactose, they ferment the lactose, and a result the colony of the E. coli will be, you will look at, they will be pink, and non-lactose fermenter, they will be white colonies. And the salmonella, we have discussed that salmonella are non-fermenter, so the colony of salmonella are whiter. On Meccan-K agar E. coli colony है और characteristic green sheen. Look at these on these medias. These are actually they are lactose, they fermented the lactose, while on the Meccan-K agar the colony have green sheen, on the, sorry, on the AMB agar the E. coli have green sheen. Look at these are E. coli and AMB agar, and they look like green sheen. Some important feature that help to diagnose E. coli from distinguish E. coli from other lactose fermenting gram-negative rod is it produce indole from tryptophan. So tryptophan, so E. coli is indole positive. It decarboxylate lysine. It uses acetate as its only source of carbon. You should note that. And you know that it is motile. E. coli O157 A7 does not ferment sorbitol, which serves important criteria that distinguish it from other strain of E. coli. You should note that O157H7 does not ferment sorbitol, and they are motile. On the basis of these, you can diagnose it. It is indole positive. Carboxylate lysine uses acetate, motile, while you know that O157H7 not ferment sorbitol. The isolation of enterotoxigenic or enteropathogenic E. coli from patient with diarrhea is not a routine diagnostic procedure. Now we are talking about the treatment. The treatment actually depend on the site of the disease and the resistant pattern of the patient isolate. For example, uncomplicated lower urinary tract infection such as cystitis can be treated with trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, or nitrofurantoin. Pyelonephritis can be treated with ciprofloxacin or ceftriaxone. You should note it. However, E. coli sepsis require treatment with parenteral antibiotic, third generation cephalosporin such as cefotaxime, with or without aminoglycoside such as gentamicin. For the treatment of neonatal meningitis, a combination of ampicillin and cefotaxime is given. Antibiotic therapy is usually not indicated in the E. coli diarrheal disease. However, administration of trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, or lopramid, in the market they are Imodium. They are present in the trade name is Imodium. Lopramid may be short in the duration of symptom. Now, another important thing is there is a rehydration. ORS should be given to the diarrheal patient of the E. coli. Now, what is the prevention? There is no specific prevention such as active or passive immunization. However, general measure can be taken to prevent certain infection caused by E. coli and other organisms. For example, the incidence of urinary tract infection can be lowered by judicious use and prompt withdrawal of catheters, and recurrent infection by prolonged prophylaxis with urinary antiseptic drug such as trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, and nitrofurantoins are given. The use of cranberry, it is very important you to know the use of cranberry juice that are available in the market to prevent recurrent urinary tract infection appear to be based on the ability of flavonoids. You know cranberry contain flavonoid juice. You should give it. Why? Because it inhibits the binding of pili of uropathic strain of E. coli to the bladder. And what happened? The The E. coli will not bind to the bladder and it will prevent the infection. Some cases of sepsis can be prevented by prompt removal of switching the site of intravenous line. Traveral diarrhea can sometimes be prevented by prophylactic use of doxycycline, ciprofloxacin, trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, or pepto-bismol. Now you know that the ingestion of uncooked food and unpurified water should be avoided when traveling in the certain countries. And the next lecture I will discuss about the Shilla.